Listen, I know we haven't talked in a long time, and I know you don't want to, but you owe me one.
What do you need from me?
I need tickets to this year's Mortal Kombat tournament. I know you've been there before. Can you drop by the studio with them?
Gaming reviews done quick. Get over here and watch another episode of 1 Minute Rundown. I'm Octrinity, your host, and I am prepared to choose my destiny. And this time, we're running down Mortal Kombat, a long runner in fighting games, having been around for about 20 years and having the dubious honor of being violent and gory enough to almost single-handedly inspire a content rating system. Perhaps the most well-known and consistent feature has been the end-of-match finishing moves that kill off the loser in some creatively violent ways. The story revolves around a martial arts tournament that serves as an arbiter of sorts between Earthrealm and the Outworld, with the ultimate prize being the ability to invade the losing realm. Gameplay-wise, I consider this to have 3 different generations. The early generation, characterized by its use of digital actors and a control setup using 2 styles of punches and kicks plus a block button, the middle generation that turned style shifting into a major focus, and the current generation that attempted to modernize previous concepts. 8 games this episode. Ready to test their might? Say what you will about what this did for gaming, as this certainly made fighting games popular and was an early pioneer at hidden characters, but I'm convinced this game has aged terribly. The controls feel a little stiff, there aren't that many characters, the shock value seems fairly tame compared to what we've seen now, and the combat really doesn't have much depth. And aside from what inputs are needed on special moves, I really don't see why I would ever need to press low punch. But I think the biggest problem is what they did with the characters. They're far too similar. All of them have exactly the same basic moveset, a special move where they throw something at the enemy, a special move where they throw themselves at the enemy, and maybe one more thing, all without enough variation to keep things interesting. I suppose back then the bar was set lower and fighting games were a different market in 1992. And let's be honest, fighting games tend not to age well simply because the sequels will expand on everything, so I get why there's some nostalgia here. But today, worth playing for historical purposes only. Unlike a lot of sequels from around this time, there's really not much in the way of new features here, at least none that really change how the game is played. What we do have is expanded special movesets, including more finishing moves, and I don't just mean fatalities this time. It's for show in the end, but it's a good show. Unsurprisingly, we have an expanded character list, including some previously unplayable characters and more boss and hidden characters, and the newbies feel right at home with what we've previously seen. Every character does have the same staple special moves, but there does feel like there's better variety in them, and controls aren't as stiff as last time, so it shouldn't surprise you that this is a step in the right direction. But then again, since we haven't seen any real changes to the game system, my other previous complaints still stand. The game's simplicity actually feels like it's a good game to learn fighting games, or for those that don't take them all that seriously to begin with, but if you're looking for something deep and competitive, look elsewhere, because this clearly isn't it. The third iteration, or technically an update to the third iteration, adds 2 major features to the series, a run button and a combo system. Running is all well and good with me, even though I would have preferred the more modern double tap instead of a separate button, but I don't really like how combos were implemented. See, it feels a bit too difficult to actually land a combo, as nearly all of them involve landing 2 high punches at very close range, followed by some other button presses that are different for each character, which don't seem to have much of a pattern. There's not really a system in place, it's more of just memorizing a sequence that I couldn't find consistency or logic behind. The character roster brings back almost all of the returning characters, plus some new ones, though about half of those new characters don't seem all that well designed either creatively or being much fun to play, or well balanced for that matter. I'll certainly give the game props for not just being another character update and move update like last time, and I do think it's a better game, but in today's market you still have many better choices. It's the first game in 3D, complete with the ability to sidestep, not that it does much beyond avoid projectiles. It's also the first game with weapons that aren't just used for a single special move. The weapons themselves tend to mostly fall into your standard melee weapons like swords, axes, and clubs, and unsurprisingly they're the most powerful attacks in the game, but the variety in weapons themselves leaves a lot to be desired. They don't have a lot of attacks available in the first place and can easily be knocked away. I see a couple of stage hazards in the mix too, and beyond that, it's kind of the same old thing. We get some fan favorites returning, we get some new characters that about half are pretty cool, and the other half even a hardcore Mortal Kombat fan might have a hard time remembering, and, well, that's about it. Honestly, I want to like this game more, and I could see it standing on its own if they put more effort into the weapons aspect, but as it is, it's a pretty weak game. I got time to fill. Remember when these graphics looked good? That's pretty crazy, right? Mortal Kombat decided here that it needed to reinvent itself, and what it came up with was a new system where each character can use 2 martial arts styles and 1 weapon and can switch their style at the press of a button. Each style has a completely different set of basic moves, including one unique move that usually provides support effects, but special moves are usable regardless. And analytically, this should be better of the any other games to this point. I mean, it fixes a lot of the issues I had with characters being near clones of each other and has a lot more options for combos. In practice, though, it makes the game very difficult to learn, since each character has 3 unique movesets and combos to learn that don't have much in common with each other, and it's not unusual to have one style that seems much better than the others, or for that matter, little incentive to switch between them, and while I'm at it, styles don't really seem to suit what we know about some characters. Granted, the game's Conquest mode sort of rolls story and tutorial into one, and does a great job explaining how the game works, but if you're looking for a game you and your friends can just jump right into, this probably isn't it. Deception runs pretty similar to Deadly Alliance, including stance shifting, and so it has a lot of the same strengths and weaknesses, and then some. There's 2 major additions to the fighting. Each combatant gets a limited number of combo breakers that immediately interrupt the combo in progress, and ring-outs are possible on certain stages. For that matter, stages have a lot more variety than they did last time. Combo breakers are certainly good, even if this isn't a game where extremely damaging combos with double-digit hits are common. Ring-outs I could kinda take or leave, as it tends to put too much emphasis on your exact location on the stage. Interestingly, the style-specific special move is gone now, replaced by a universal grab button, but it actually works better that way. It also has a few new mini-games, one clearly inspired by Puzzle Fighter, while another is a chess variant. And really, I'm not too crazy about which characters they chose to bring back this time, but the new characters are decent enough. This does feel like a better game than Deadly Alliance was, but more in the sense that they worked out the obvious issues, but haven't refined everything yet. Armageddon decided it wanted to be the series' grand finale, so of course it had to include every character ever. Yes, even the previously unplayable boss characters, and, well, also the characters nobody likes, but that's an acceptable price. With the cast of characters increasing, characters drop down from 3 styles to 2, one of which is usually a weapon, while occasionally having another weapon available to be grabbed in the middle of the arena. I think it works better this way with more simplicity, but there are a few characters with just one style, and a few more that borrow a style from another character. It feels like they just decided to rush the last few characters or something, but with what I think is the biggest cast in any fighting game ever, I think it's a bit excusable. There does seem to be more care taken with the stages, too. In some cases, a powerful attack will send a character off the stage and into the next one, and the size of shape of arenas varies much more than before, and now parries can be performed with well-timed blocks. Looking at this from a grand finale standpoint, this actually is a good send-up, and a good game, really, but not the best game in the series. That title belongs here. At this point, apparently nostalgia set in and they realized the most memorable games in the series were the early ones, hence the character list containing almost all old characters, but agreed that the games themselves haven't aged well and redesigned the game engine from scratch, scaling back to 2-dimensional movement and including a super meter that at low levels can be used for combo breakers and Street Fighter-style EX moves, and when filled can use attacks that knock off about 1/3 of your opponent's health while showing in slow motion what the attack is doing to the inside of their body. This one also features online play, a mission mode, and a story mode, which itself is a bit of a retelling or perhaps a what-if scenario of previous game stories, and shifts characters' perspectives every 4 fights or so. It is, quite simply, what a good fighting game story mode should be. Combos are still based more on memorization than an open system, but still have some flexibility with juggling, and special move motions feel more standardized. I feel like the characters could be a little more fluid, but that's really a small issue on the end. Definitely recommended for anyone who liked the older games. And that finishes that. This is all of the main fighting games in this series, but they had some spin-offs that venture into some other genres, as well as one more fighting game that pulls a crossover with the DC Comics universe. It should be little surprise then that the same team also created Injustice, a fighting game set squarely in that universe. For the collectors out there, the early games in the series, considered by most to be the golden age of the series for some reason, are also available as a collection on Steam, while the PS2 has many of its games available as a separate collection, and the latest game also has a separate package that includes all downloadable content. But fortunately, the games are cheap and easy to find as it is. The game's main creator has hinted another Mortal Kombat is being discussed, but let's be fair, that doesn't necessarily mean we'll see anything soon, if at all, but the series certainly has the popularity to warrant another sequel. Check back soon for the next episode of 1 Minute Rundown. Games like this frequently target a mature crowd, so I'll follow this with a series that didn't target adults yet has a fan base full of them anyway. Until then, remember, there is no knowledge that is not power.
You did not need my help at all.
Actually, Kratos, I did need your help for two things. One is to test a theory I have about this whole video series, and two, revenge for episode 14.
Finish it.
Now, up for a game of Mortal Kombat?
Octrinity wins. Friendship. Friendship? I reject your friendship.
End the episode! End it! End it!